Hey, I'm Aiden. I'm 17, and everyone views me as a babe magnet. I can't help it. I'm just irresistible to the ladies. This is something I'm proud of. I mean, come on. Being able to win over any girl I like? Now that's an achievement, right? I don't blame the ladies. I find myself irresistible too. I'm good looking, rich, and I can charm the birds out of the trees. If I could date myself, I would. Yes, I like to flirt with pretty girls, but I've been single for a while now. Out of choice. It's simple. Girls are too complicated. They start off all sweet and innocent, but then a few months down the line, they turn into possessive psychos, checking my phone, accusing me of cheating on them, and sulking when I hang out with my friends instead of watching some dumb rom-com with them. I believe that when a relationship turns this sour then, there's no saving it. However, my last ex, Mona, was almost impossible to end things with. When I told her I didn't want to be with her anymore, she went crazy. 355 missed calls later, and 1,026 unanswered messages, and she seemed to get the hint. Moreover, she started some rumor around school that I'd got her pregnant. I was abandoning her and my unborn child. An afternoon spent explaining to the principal that Mona was lying wasn't my idea of fun. Mona needed stopping, so I called on my trusted best friend Gary for help. Oh, I didn't tell you about Gary. He isn't just a friend. He's my sidekick. Whenever I needed him, he showed up without question and did everything I asked of him. Gary is a shy guy and kinda goofy, so maybe that's why he likes to be friends with a shrewd boy like me. On this occasion, I passed him a cop outfit and instructed him to go to Mona's house. I hid behind the fence and watched as she answered the door to him. She didn't recognize him. Instead, she totally freaked out when he told her if she continued to slander me, she'd have to accompany him to the station. She burst into tears and promised she wouldn't lie ever again. Then one day, Gary came to me and said he needed my help. Sure, bud. Anything you need. He said he had a crush on this girl, but he didn't know what to do to get her info. Ooh, my boy started to love, huh? Easy. Just leave it to me. The next day, we went to the mall, and he showed me this girl. Turns out she's some cutie that works in a clothing store. Summer break had just begun, so I had the perfect plan to help my bro get the girl. I told him to apply for a part-time job there, but he instantly refused, saying he was far too nervous to do that. So the next day, I went to the store and showed the boss my CV and asked for a job, but he said there were no vacancies. Suddenly, a guy who worked there came over to us and resigned. Bingo, I got the job. Yeah, I had to pay this guy 2 months' wages in exchange for quitting, but, well, all for my bro. I had nothing but money. Anyway, first step, done. So I started the job, and all of the girls who worked there instantly flocked around me. As I said before, I'm a babe magnet. Well, all apart from that girl Gary likes, she didn't seem to care. I did find out her name though. It was Helen. In the following days, I spent a lot of time just trying to talk to Helen to get to know her, but she kept ignoring me. I knew I needed to step up my game, so when I found out she was working overtime, I seized my chance. When I was packing things into storage, I purposely dropped the box on my boss's head when he walked past. Don't worry, it wasn't heavy. He wasn't very happy about it and made me do overtime. Result: great. It was just me and Helen alone in the store. She looked exhausted, so I passed her some water and said, "Are you tired? Just go home. I can cover for you." She looked at the glass of water and smirked. "I'm fine. Aren't you tired of chasing me and getting nowhere? I know what kind of boy you are." Then she got up to continue working and completely ignored me. Once again, I failed. Time for plan B. I convinced Gary to pretend he was famous and come into the store. I told him to pay some girls to ask him for autographs and pictures when he walked in. The plan was he would ask Helen for advice. She would be very interested and fall for him. A perfect plan, huh? Yeah, it didn't go so well. He showed up looking like some sort of circus clown. I told him to dress brightly, but it didn't mean he should dress up like he'd stolen a rainbow. None of the girls he paid to pester him showed up, so he just stood there awkwardly and Helen didn't look very impressed. This silly guy. Did I really have to do everything for him? So I came up with plan C. I decided to kidnap her. Just kidding. Actually, I took her to the beach. We only had a morning shift that day, so when we finished, I waited for her outside. As soon as I saw her, I pulled her to the car waiting there and told my driver to go. She wasn't best pleased and threatened to call the cops. I told her to relax and enjoy the day, because she'd worked so hard. In the end, she stopped yelling and told me there better be ice cream. We played with water, found some seashells, normal beach stuff. Her mood got better and I could feel like she was being more comfortable with me. Then we sat on the sand and watched the sunset. I saw Helen look at her watch, then look at me. It's getting late. Home time? Sure, but hey, how about next time we get you a new watch? Yours is ancient. She shook her head. No, it's fine. My dad gave it to me. He used to be a great man, but when I was 9, he turned to drink. One time, he went home and hit my mom. He left after that, and I've not heard from him since. After a brief silence, I said, "Do you miss him?" She looked sad and said, "I do, but I don't know if I forgive him. Every time I think of him, I look at this watch. My dad carved my name on it by himself." I comforted her. Well, don't think too much. I understand how it feels to lose a loved one. My mom passed away when I was little. I live with my dad, but he gives me only money instead of his time. He doesn't take care of me like your mother does for you. I looked at her and she gave me a sympathetic look back. I suddenly felt my heart skip a beat. Helen was such a sweet girl. But no, I reminded myself I was doing this for Gary. So we stood up and went home. I got my driver to drop her off at her house, and in doing so, I found out where she lives. To get to her house, we had to pass a really long and dark alley. So I came up with a great idea. I'd pay guys to pretend to be thugs, then Gary could show up and rescue her. The hero and damsel in distress. Old, but gold. The day of the fake thug attack came and I hid behind the dumpster. I saw Helen coming and then the 2 thugs showed up. Hang on, who were these guys? These weren't the guys I'd hired. Suddenly, Gary rushed to save Helen. Oh no, he didn't know they were real thugs. I watched him being tackled to the ground. I'm too good looking for fighting, but on this occasion, I had to make an exception. So I jumped out and karate kicked the bad guys. That's when my hired thugs showed up and helped me out. What good timing. Gary and I took Helen home. Before coming inside, she looked at me with grateful eyes and said, "Thank you so much." I put my hand on Gary's shoulder and forced a smile. "Oh, not at all. I was just passing by and then I saw this brave guy helping you." Then she smiled at me and went into her house without looking at him once. Gary signed, "Thanks, bro." I replied, "I'm sorry, buddy." It failed again. Then to my surprise, Gary said, "It's okay. I think I have to give up anyway. I have no courage to see her ever again. But I could see the way she looked at you. I know I've been beat. But you had a crush on her. Don't give up." Don't worry, letting go doesn't mean giving up, but rather accepting that there are things that cannot be. And you, give her a chance and try to be serious this time. She's a good girl. That night, I thought about what Gary said. Turns out he was right. I did have feelings for Helen, and I needed to tell her. The next day, I walked up to her after work and started stuttering out a bunch of nonsense, but then I saw someone walking over to us. Mona. She looked at me and said, well, look who's got a new girlfriend." Then she turned to Helen. "Hey, be careful with this one. He likes to trick girls, then dump them. Don't love him too much or else he will call a cop to your house and break up with you like he did to me." Helen stared at me in shock. "Is this true?" Then, when I remained silent, she burst into tears. "I knew it! I knew you were a jerk, but I still fell for you." I tried to hold her to calm her down, but she kept pushing me away. Then suddenly her watch fell off, and I heard a crunching sound. I'd accidentally stepped on it. I picked it up and it didn't work anymore. She screamed at me, "How could you? You know how much this watch means to me?" I didn't know what to do, so I ran away. I know I'm a jerk, but I was going to fix this, starting with the watch. I wandered to a secondhand market looking for a watchmaker, and my search led me to a house owned by a cranky man. He refused to help me at first, but then when I pulled the watch out, he stared at it and said he would help me with one condition. The next day I gave Helen the watch and asked her to forgive me. She angrily took it off me, but looking at it, she seemed confused when she saw it was fixed. "How?" she asked me. "I went to see someone, and that person also wants to apologize to you." I gestured for her to turn around. The watchmaker stepped out, and Helen's face fell. It was her dad. She yelled at him, "Why are you here?" I knew I needed to defuse the situation, so I said, "When I went to fix this watch, he recognized it and begged me to help him talk to you. He still loves you so much." Helen's dad said, "Helen, I just want to apologize to you and your mom. For the past 7 years, I've been so lonely. Please forgive me so I don't have to live in torment anymore." So, after a long conversation, they finally reunited. Helen agreed to forgive her dad only if he went to her house and apologized to her mom. As for me and Helen, well, She shyly thanked me after that, and of course she forgave me. I told her I loved her and she laughed, punched me in the arm, and then told me she loved me too. So we're now an official couple. I may be a babe magnet, but I'm now very much a one-woman man. Don't worry, ladies, as my main man Gary is still available for dates, and he's a catch.
Have you ever wondered what being a parent would be like? How about if you suddenly became a parent and your parent became a teenager? Well, it happened to me, and I'm here to tell you all about it. Hello, everybody. My name's Heaven, and I'm 17. But don't let my name deceive you, because this Heaven came straight out of hell. I suppose I've never been the easiest child. Back when I was younger, I had a lot of temper tantrums and outbursts. Once, when I was 8, this boy took the green crayon I wanted, so I snatched it off him, then snapped it in half. He burst into tears, and the teacher got involved and tried to put me in the timeout corner, so I screamed at her and even gave her some bruises. The teacher rang my parents and told them this was the last strike, and I'd been expelled. When they picked me up, my dad just sighed and stayed quiet, but my mom yelled at me. "Well, I hope you're happy now, Heaven. You've brought shame to our family, and now we've got to find another school willing to take you." Now, 9 years later, and the relationship between Mom and me is worse than ever. We just don't see eye to eye on anything. To be honest, we're like strangers. She has absolutely no idea what it feels like to be a teenager, and her super strict rules are ridiculous, such as no boyfriends until I'm 18. No parties, no drinking, no staying out past 8:30 p.m., no unhealthy foods. No, 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 no. She was such a fun killer. Jeez, who was she to try and control me like this? Ugh. Me being me, I tried to find my way around these stupid rules. I made out I was having a girly sleepover at my friend Clara's house, then ended up going to a party. I said I was at an after-school club, when really, I went on a date with a boy. And I chucked the healthy packed lunches she made me in the trash and ordered a greasy burger and loaded cheese fries instead. I hated the fact that Mom was ruining my life with all of her dumb rules, and she hated the fact that I didn't respect her enough to follow her dumb rules. Because of this, we argued. A lot. And my little bro John and my dad often found themselves stuck in the middle. I guess that they couldn't stand the icy atmosphere between us. So eventually, they themselves prepared for a family day out. And it was certainly going to fix nothing. Her rules still followed us to the park, and she'd even stopped me talking to this really cute guy and shouted at me to go mind John. Ugh! I wasn't here to be a maid! Then, when we got home, she insisted I help her cook dinner. So I poured Dad a beer, and when I thought Mom wasn't looking, I slurped back the rest of the can. Suddenly, my mom screamed out, "What do you think you're doing? You're too young to be drinking!" I just rolled my eyes and said, "What? It was a tiny sip. Stop being so uptight, else you'll turn into a wrinkly old prune." Then I threw the can on the floor and walked off. She gave me a fierce glare, but I didn't care. How could she be just so serious? So when we were all sitting around the table for dinner, I could feel the tension between me and Mom. She passed John a plate full of chicken nuggets, but she passed me a plate heaped full of broccoli. Yuck! Where are my nuggets? I asked. Mom replied, "John is a growing boy. You, however, need to eat some vegetables, as you're getting a little chubby." How dare she? I wasn't even fat. In fact, I'm so skinny, I could be a model. If anyone needed to watch their weight, it was her, not me. She was the one squeezing herself into her old pair of skinny jeans. So I grabbed my plate of broccoli and threw it in the trash. Mom got up and said, "Fine, go hungry. See if I care. And you can clean up after yourself from now on." I yelled back, "Ridiculous! There's nothing in my stomach and you're giving me chores? Is this child abuse?" But then my dad startled us by slamming his fist on the table. "That's enough! Both of you! Start acting like grown-ups!" We both muttered out sorry. Then Dad came up with his bonkers idea. "Okay, so if you two cannot live in harmony, why don't you trade places?" Mom and I were kinda confused. "What do you mean?" I said to him.
"Well, it's simple, Heaven. You'll switch places with Mom and do the housework, shopping, making dinner, and taking care of John, and so on. While Ariana,"
he looked at Mom,
"you'll relive your teenage years and go to school. Let's say for 2 days."
Mom looked thrilled at the prospect of being me. As for me, I wasn't convinced. I mean, who likes doing chores? Besides, tomorrow at school was class picnic day, which meant no classes, lots of tasty food, and plenty of time to stare at cute boys. But Mom seemed so excited at the idea of being me, so I decided I could take advantage of this. "Does this mean I don't have to follow any stupid rules?" I asked, and Mom and Dad nodded in agreement. "Okay then, all the strict rules are gone."
"Does this mean I can eat chocolate in bed?"
John asked. I grinned. "You betcha!" Mom just shrugged and said,
"It's okay, Mom. Now I have to prepare stuff for my picnic."
And she excitedly ran upstairs. This would be a breeze, right? I mean, how hard could being Mom actually be? The next morning, John woke me up extra early and insisted I make him breakfast. Yawn. While I was pouring cereal into a bowl for him, Mom appeared. She was wearing her hat backwards. Geez, someone seriously needed to tell her it wasn't the 90s anymore. "Have fun, Ariana." I winked at her.
"You too, Mom."
She winked back. I watched her through the window. As she got on the school bus, she turned to me and did the peace out sign. Geez, could she be any more uncool? Whatever, she could be as cringy as she wanted. I didn't care, as I had the whole day at home alone. Or at least, until I had to pick up my bro from school. I didn't bother loading up the dishwasher, and I sidestepped past the massive pile of laundry and decided to spend the morning on the couch watching a chick flick and painting my nails. This was the life. A few hours passed, and I was so bored and hungry, so I went into the kitchen to look for food. But the cupboards were empty. Then I noticed a shopping list and some money on the counter. Reluctantly, I walked to the local store, but I ignored the list and bought lots of snacks. Hey, I was Mom, so I made the rules. In the end, I found myself so bored that I actually ended up doing the laundry. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I threw everything into the machine, fiddled with the dial, and hoped for the best. Then my phone rang. It was Clara. So I answered and she said, "Hey, why is your mom here instead of you?" I told her about the switch up, then asked her what my mom was up to. She was quiet for a second, then said, well, she's definitely enjoying the picnic. In fact, she's showing Mrs. Puller her dabbing skills." What? My mom was dabbing? Which no one did anymore. And in front of our ancient science teacher? Was she trying to humiliate me? Whatever, my mom could get on with it. I had house chores to do. Geez, what's with chores? They seriously never seem to end. By the end of the day, I was so exhausted that I ordered takeout for everyone, then slumped in front of the TV. I finally had the option to stay out late, but I didn't have the energy to do it. Then, the next day, when I was doing yet more house chores, my friend Patrick sent me a photo. It was Mom. She was wearing a cheerleader's outfit that exposed her midriff. What? She was just at a casual football match. No one dressed up for that. Then Patrick sent me another picture. In it, Mom was fiddling with her hair and touching some jock's shoulder. OMG. Was she trying to flirt with him? Whatever. I didn't have time for this. I had to go pick John up from school, then go to the grocery store to get supplies for dinner. We arrived home to find Mom slumped on the couch, surrounded by empty wrappers and cans. On seeing me, she said, "Oh, you're back." I told John to go to his room, then I stormed over to Mom and said, "What's with all this mess? Clean it up." She just smirked at me and said, "Nah, you never clean it up, so why should I? After all, we have switched places, remember?" She finished her beer, then burped loudly before she threw the can at my feet, then walked off. This was so annoying. I'd already tidied the living room once today, and now I had to do it again. My mom was so unfair. Then, when I finally managed to grab 5 minutes to relax with a hot chocolate, loud thudding sounds were coming from upstairs. It was her music. It was so loud, it made the ceiling shake. Geez, she was so annoying. Then suddenly, it dawned on me. This was how I acted. Mom was just being me. So, okay, I guess I was a little harsh at times. I suppose being mom wasn't as easy as it looks. So I decided to make amends by making a delicious dinner. But there was one problem. I can't cook. In fact, the last time I tried to cook, I set the crepes and the pan on fire. So, for safety purposes, I asked Clara and Patrick to help me. They had cooking class, so they knew what to do. We created a feast of barbecue ribs, burgers, cornbread, salad, grape punch, and for dessert, a chocolate lava cake and blueberry pie. I swear they looked so good, I wanted to drool all over them. Mom came downstairs chewing her gum and scrolling through her phone, but then she looked at the food and stuttered, How did you make all of this? Not even I could make this many meals. I just shrugged and said, I had a little help from my friends. No biggie. Then I stopped in front of Mom and said, I'm sorry that I've been a bad daughter. I know you do a lot for me, and I promise I'll be better from now on. Mom started crying and said, I'm sorry too. I know it isn't easy being your age. I can't keep up with the trends. I thought dabbing was popular. Anyway, from now on, I'll be fair to you, and we'll have fun together. After that, we hugged it out. Then my dad stood up and said,
Well, now anyone want to trade places with me?
John immediately raised his hand, and all could see his eyes light up. Soon, we all burst out laughing, thinking about one day John will go to work and talk about dinosaurs at the meetings. Meanwhile, my dad is building a Lego castle for John's kindergarten girlfriend. My family is now happier than ever. It's all thanks to my dad's crazy idea. You should never disrespect your parents, otherwise you might just find yourself living in their shoes. Literally. And trust me, I'll take strict rules and being nagging parents any day if the alternative is grocery shopping and house chores. Ugh!
Hi guys, I'm Alex. I'm a 24-year-old guy who's married to my high school sweetheart Ariel. Even though we haven't had kids yet, Ariel stays at home and I go to work. Sounds blissful, right? Wrong. You see, my once cute and loving wife is now a total grumpy control freak. Don't get me wrong, I still love her very much, but, well, who am I kidding? I'm just the henpecked husband who never dares to oppose her. No longer am I a free man. Instead, she insisted I follow her rules, and I swear she makes most of them up as she goes along. No going out with friends. No overnight trips away, even if they're work-related. Dinner is not allowed outside unless I take her with me. No talking to work colleagues on social media. I'm not even allowed to fall asleep first, else she wakes me up by yelling at me. If I dare to break those rules, then I have to face the consequences, and trust me, they weren't worth thinking about. For instance, I once stayed a little late at work, so the next day she made me moldy sandwiches. I didn't notice until I'd taken a big bite out of it. Ugh, gross. Another time I visited my parents after work without her, so she turned my white shirts pink. I had to go to work resembling the Pink Panther. And every day I come home from work to her endless complaints. She could moan on about the most ridiculous things, such as the puddle outside of our house meant she couldn't go for a walk, as she didn't want to ruin her shoes. And she'd accidentally drunk normal coffee instead of decaf, and now she had a headache. And it went on and on. Also, she's a real stalker. Yep, it seems all she does all day is spy on our neighbors. Did you know that the neighbor to the right of us walks around his yard in his wife's pink fluffy dressing gown and slippers? And the neighbor opposite sings Christmas tunes to her dog. Ugh, who cares? But if I dare yawn or show any sort of disinterest, she yells at me. So I feigned interest by saying things like, "Oh, is that so? Oh, right. Please go on." The nagging didn't stop when I was at work either, as she constantly texted me telling me to come home early to fix the light bulb, faucet, or whatever else she'd managed to break. Geez, why were there so many broken things lately? Was she deliberately ruining them so that I would rush home after work to fix them? No, that couldn't be possible, right? One time during work, she messaged me saying the washing machine was leaking everywhere and asked me to call a mechanic. I didn't understand why she couldn't call one herself, as I was at work. Anyway, I forgot to do it, so she called my work number and demanded I go home immediately. The problem was that my work colleague answered the phone. The poor lad actually had to hold the phone away from him as she was shrieking so loudly. "You broke it, so come home and fix it immediately." I grabbed the phone off my colleague and replied, "Huh? How is it my fault?" She replied, "Duh. Because you wear 3 outfits in a day and I only wear 1, so you broke it, not me, so come and fix it." Yeah. I failed to see the logic in her argument. I just didn't know who she was anymore. Where had the lovely Ariel from the old days gone? Oh, how I longed to be single again. Then, when I thought things couldn't get any worse, they did. My workplace was celebrating its 10th anniversary, so my boss held a party and invited everyone and their families. Oh no. The last thing I needed was my controlling wife embarrassing me. But Ariel checked my emails and found out about the party. She immediately repeated her rule. "Dinner is not allowed outside unless you take me with you." I forced a smile and acted excited to have her joining me. Hope nothing happens, though. We'd been at the party all of 5 minutes, and I was politely smiling at my female colleague, when Ariel turned red with anger, then spilled her wine over this woman's dress, said, "Oops," then walked off. I passed my colleague some napkins and apologized. Why was Ariel so childish? I didn't want to lose my job because of her jealous rages. Then I found her talking to my boss. She was actually shouting at him for making me work overtime too often. What? My boss was fuming. Now I was sure I would end up being fired. But thank God, through some miracle and a lot of groveling to my boss, I didn't lose my job. I was feeling so down about it all. So on one of my lunch breaks, I called my friend Matthew. I've known him for years. In fact, back in our school days, he had a huge crush on Ariel. And we both tried to win her heart. Anyway, that's in the past. I needed to vent, so I said to him, "Back at school, you and I both frantically chased Ariel. We even fought for her. Back then I thought I'd won, but now I think you're the one who had the lucky escape." Matthew replied, "Do you know why your married life is so stuffy? It's because she loves you too much. If you need more freedom, it's so easy. You just need to make your wife love you less. Don't worry, I'm here to help." At this point, I was pretty much willing to try anything. Besides, he was my friend, so he had my back, right? So the plan was to find Ariel a demanding job in another town. Then I'd only have to see her on weekends. So I asked my old friend to let Ariel work as a newscaster on his about-to-be bankrupt radio station. Ariel was so excited when she got the job offer. She begged me to quit my job and to go with her, but I disagreed. I made excuses that my job was too good to quit and encouraged her that it was a good opportunity for her and that I would visit her on weekends. After that, the life I always longed for arrived. It was so blissful coming home from work and not having her nag me. I could put my feet on the couch, fall asleep whenever I wanted, and go out for dinner with my colleagues without having to take her along with me. But the house was quiet. Too quiet. Yes, it wasn't long before I found myself pining for her like a puppy. I even slept clutching one of her sweaters. Then it suddenly all made sense. Ariel had only acted that way because she was bored and lonely stuck at home all day. She longed to have me to talk to, and yet all I did was make fun of her. Ugh, I was a terrible husband. I'd been a foolish idiot, and I wanted my wife back, so, without delay, I bought the biggest bunch of flowers I could find and drove to Ariel's place in the other city. But when I pulled up outside, I saw her standing outside talking to someone. It was Matthew. That sneaky, conniving snake. Then I saw him take her hand. I stormed up to him and punched him in the face. Ariel panicked. "Alex, are you crazy? What the hell are you doing?" Then she checked Matthew's bleeding nose. I was furious, so I blurted out, "He's a liar. He told me to send you away just so he could worm his way into your life." She looked at me in surprise and stammered, "What? You sent me away? I earned this job and I chose this life." "No," I shook my head. "I set it all up. I'm sorry, I'm a fool." I was about to hug Ariel, but she pushed me away and said, "Are you bored with me? Why don't you... You're a coward." After that, Ariel ran into her house and locked the door. I begged her to hear me out, but she ignored me. I had no choice to drive home sad and alone. I went back to her house each day and tried apologizing, but she never answered the door. Each day I left her a gift on her doorstep, such as chocolate cake, penguin plushie as they're her favorite animal, and a picture of us together. She took the gifts, but she still wouldn't answer the door. But then one night when I was waiting in front of her house, I saw her running towards me. Could it be that she'd forgiven me and was coming to embrace me? Nah. A bandit was chasing after her and was trying to grab her handbag. I rushed forward and tackled this bandit to the ground. She was so relieved I was there to save the day, and she flung her arms around me. After that, she forgave me and moved back home. I definitely learned my lesson now. I should always appreciate the happiness I have, instead of taking it for granted. But I guess I will still have to live on the edge for the rest of my life. Afraid that someday Ariel will find out the big secret I'm keeping. Yeah, I'm the one who hired that bandit. Surprise! Those secrets will have to come to me to the grave. Or Ariel will bury me 6 feet under by herself. I don't know anymore. Wish me luck, guys.
Hey, I'm Henry, and I'm a 23-year-old from Hamburg. And I have one question. You must have heard of K-pop, right? So, any K-pop fans in the house? Of course, I'm one. To be specific, I am an ARMY, a true BTS stan. Oh, and for those who don't know, stan is slang for when you're a big fan of something. Anyway, I can proudly say I'm obsessed with K-pop, and it's such a fun journey, right? But not everyone gets it. In fact, this is my story about how people treated me for being a fanboy, and it gets pretty dramatic. So, people always think that we like K-pop just because the idols are good-looking. But no, that's not only it. Seriously, I bet those who hate K-pop haven't even given it a proper listen. So you K-pop haters, just hear me out, and I'll start by tracing all the way back to the beginning of that life-changing moment when I first discovered K-pop. It all started when my classmate Chrissy was watching this music video called Dope during recess. I got curious and joined her. And oh boy, I never seen something so incredible before. The camera work, the choreography, it was unreal. I couldn't get the song out of my head, and the video was so much fun to watch. They didn't need hot girls nor supercars to make it eye-catching. It's pure talent only. After that, I started to listen to more K-pop and became a multi-stan, but BTS is always my one true love. I love them, and I wouldn't mind sharing all about it on my Instagram, which also helps me make friends with a lot of other ARMY from all around the world. Mostly girls, but a lot of guys too. And they often message me saying how much they admire me for being so open about my love for K-pop. They say they wish they had the same courage I did, since a lot of them got made fun of for liking Korean male artists. How ridiculous is that? It's 2021. We can like who we like, and we shouldn't have to keep quiet about our passions. However, I totally understood how they felt. I've been there, and it was rough. One time in high school, I'd been so excited to show Chrissy my new BTS album. We were screaming and squealing as I carefully flipped through each page as if it was my most prized possession, when some jock walked by with his crew and snatched it out of my hand. Then he said, "What is this tween magazine? Didn't they all have plastic surgery, right?" Then another guy said, "Why do you like these guys? Are you gay or something?" Then they all walked off laughing. I was so angry I wanted to kick them so far off the earth, even Google wouldn't be able to find him. But I couldn't do anything. They were way bigger than me and would crush me into a pulp if I even tried. So I came up with a better idea. I started going to the gym. I wanted to be buff like Jungkook. Then I wouldn't be afraid of any losers picking on me and my boys anymore. Oh, and by the way, I'm not gay. That's just another thing us fanboys have to deal with. There's nothing wrong with being gay, but just assuming I am because I like K-pop is silly. K-pop is for anyone and everyone. Anyway, after high school, things were looking up as people in college were less nosy. We'd all grown up, and you won't believe how muscular I'd become. Girls started showing interest in me, but there was only one girl I had eyes for. Her name was Kayla, and she was so cute. However, there was just one tiny problem. And by tiny, I mean huge. She didn't like K-pop. Once when we were studying, she sat closer to me and asked with a smile, "What are you listening to?" Then she took one side of my earphones. "What is this? Some kind of chanting?" Then she just went back to reading with a disgusted look on her face. What? That was my bias. Rap Monster was spitting fire. I didn't know she was that tasteless, but I let it slide this time, since I didn't want to make a big deal out of it in the library. After that, things got worse, and her hatred for K-pop became more obvious. Every time I talked about it, she rolled her eyes and changed the subject. And when the new music videos came out, and I couldn't wait to show her, she'd just scroll on her phone and ignore it. Other than that, she was always so sweet, and so we kept on dating. But we shouldn't have. One time, we were hanging out at the mall, and it was a pretty special day for me as it was BTS's debut anniversary. I was so excited and had even worn my BTS crossbody bag with a Koya keychain to complete the look. I thought I looked cool, but Kayla burst out laughing when she saw me and said, "OMG, did you borrow your sister's bag or something?" I tried to explain to her and said, "No, it's mine, and this is my baby Koya." But she just cut me off and rolled her eyes, as she said we'd be late for the movies. She kinda killed my vibe, but it was BTS day, so I wouldn't let anything ruin it. We were lining up to buy popcorn when I felt someone tap me on the shoulder. "Excuse me, I couldn't help noticing your Koya. Are you perhaps an ARMY?" I finished his sentence with a scream. We were both excited. We basically talked in gibberish that probably only ARMY could understand. Turns out J-Hope was his bias, and his name was Craig. Then he even gifted me some photo cards he'd just printed out. I was so immersed in the conversation with him, I forgot Kayla was even there, until Craig said to her, "Oh, hey, who's your bias? I might have some cards for you too." Kayla looked offended and said,
"You guys are sick. What a pair of losers. I've had enough of this K-pop stuff."
Then she stormed off. We were left stunned, but oh well. If she couldn't respect my hobby and love me for who I am, then fine. Good riddance, Kayla. After that, Craig and I went to a cafe to talk everything BTS, and until this day, we're still good friends, and I'm grateful he saved me from dating that awful girl any longer. After that relationship, I gave my love life a bit of a break, as I was busy with streaming music videos, voting for BTS on award shows, and catching up with all of their content, on top of studying. I was perfectly happy living my little fanboy life without any girl, but then one day, everything changed. I was on the bus to class because I wasn't feeling well enough to drive after a white night watching BTS's live stream. I must have dozed off because the next moment I woke up and I was leaning on some girl's shoulder. I quickly apologized to her and she just giggled. Then I took a proper look and oh my gosh, I've never met such a beautiful girl in my life. She was like a mixture of all 4 members of Blackpink. Luckily, I was smart enough to ask her for her number and offered to buy her a drink to make up for almost drooling on her shoulder. After class, we met at a Starbucks and immediately hit it off. Her name was Clara, and she was so smart and pretty. I gotta make her mine. So I decided to change my tactic a little. I would wait a bit before telling her I was a fanboy. And instead, I focused on finding out more about her first and making it clear I really liked her. Then, when the right time came, I'd share with her my passion for K-pop. Pretty soon we got quite serious and did everything together, and I finally felt the moment had come. I was driving her home and decided to put my K-pop playlist on. To my surprise, she looked interested and asked what it was. I told her how much I loved it, and then nervously asked her, "Are you really okay with it?" Because usually when I tell people, they make fun of me. She just smiled and said, "Okay, now it's my turn." Then she put on some death metal, which almost made my hair stand on end. She laughed and said, "I know how you feel. Death metal isn't everyone's cup of tea either, but hey, we're allowed to like whatever we want, right? I respect that you love K-pop." Oh my gosh, could Clara be any more perfect? I can't wait to show her my room too. But unexpectedly, on the night I invited her over, her face changed as she saw all my posters and merch. I showed her my collections, my dolls, my pictures, but she just smiled and stared at me. Then she took my hand and said, "Henry, this is really cool, but don't you think it's a bit much? I know you love them, but you should maybe start spending your money on stuff for your future too." Then she told me she wanted to go home. Can't deny that I was hurt, but I knew that she's the one for me, and she just needed a little time to really understand that this was more than just a hobby for me. So I was determined to get her to like K-pop. I started sending her songs and recommending her some Korean shows to watch. Once, I even pretended I was taking her out for a picnic, but I took her to an army fest. Clara went along with it all, but she didn't seem too interested. Then came the best news ever. I found out BTS was going to have a concert in London. I was desperate to go and told Clara about flying there for the concert, but she said, "Henry, isn't that the same day as our marketing contest? There will be headhunters there and everything. You can't miss it. This is your chance to secure a good job." I didn't care and replied with a joke, "But I've been waiting to see them my whole life. This is a dream come true. Who needs a job when you have BTS? I'm going to London, baby." But Clara didn't laugh. In fact, she got super angry and started shouting at me saying that I was so immature and that if I didn't grow up soon, she couldn't be with me anymore. She was even crying, saying she needed a responsible man who was thinking about his future as she stormed off. After that, she gave me the silent treatment. I was stuck in a dilemma. It was my biggest dream to see BTS live, but why did this feel so wrong? I decided to wait a few days to think it all through, and eventually I realized there would be other concerts, right? I really couldn't skip the contest. I mean, how else would I support BTS without money? I did need a job. So even though it broke my fanboy heart, I told Clara I'd skip the concert this time and go to the contest. Clara immediately grinned and said, "Really? I'm so proud of you, Henry." Then she gave me a big kiss, and I reminded myself this was all worth it. And at least I still had my girlfriend. But suddenly Clara started speaking again. "Henry, there's something I need to tell you. Actually, Professor Geller has told me that the contest has been put off temporarily. So this was just a test." Then she said she just wanted to see if I could figure out my priorities. She loved how passionate I was about K-pop, but everything needed balance, and she wanted to make sure I would take other parts of my life as seriously as I took K-pop. Then she handed me her phone and said, "Look." I couldn't believe it. It was 2 tickets to the BTS show. She'd bought them for me. I was so happy I burst into tears and couldn't stop hugging her. I thought that was the happiest moment of my life. But the BTS concert was, especially as Clara was by my side. We're currently still together, and guess what? She even biases Jin now. She's seriously the perfect girl for me, and I can't wait to spend my life with her. If in 2031 you ever see a family of 4 screaming their heads off at a BTS concert, chances are it's me and Clara and our future kids. Don't be shy. Come say hi.
Do you know what it's like to be a pampered princess? Well, I do, because my dad's a billionaire, so the high life's mine. Not only did we live in a 5-story mansion, but I grew up never having to lift one of my pretty, perfect, delicate fingers. I'm Sophia, and throughout my childhood, I had everything done for me. There was a maid to brush my hair, make my bed, and even do my homework for me. I didn't even have to search my walk-in wardrobe for a daily outfit, as I had my own personal stylist for that. So what? I'm spoiled. But I can't help being so perfect. I'm far too gorgeous to be stuck in a stuffy classroom studying. Not when I could be partying or schmoozing with the stars at swanky cocktail balls. But then, one morning, after a particularly crazy night out, I arrived home with a makeup-smudged face and only one shoe. Dad frowned at me, and then he said,
"Sophia, you can't carry on like this. You're going to college, starting next week."
"But, Dad, I don't need to go to college. School sucks. Plus, we have enough money to last us several lifetimes. Let's just travel and have fun." But Daddy insisted I couldn't just sleep all day and party all night. Ugh! So, I decided to major in interior design for now. Some of the course was okay. I mean, I liked the pretty fabrics, but I just didn't see the point in being there. So, after a month, I dropped out and planned a long trip away with my besties. But there was one tiny problem, as paying for this trip would cost way more than my allowance could cover. So, I had no choice but to don my best puppy eyes look and ask my dad for money. "Daddy, please. College just isn't for me. But I really feel that going away for a while will help clear my mind." He snorted.
"I highly doubt that, Sophia. You're lazy, self-centered, and you rely entirely on everyone to support you. You're 20, for God's sakes, so act like it."
I pleaded back. "But Daddy, I just want to have some fun with my friends."
"Then get a job, and spend your own money on whatever you like. But if you carry on behaving this way, then don't expect any more handouts from me. You're lucky that I still haven't kicked you out, Sophia. But soon—"
"What? That's so unreasonable. He was my father. It's his duty to support me. Jeez, did he not love me at all?" I was so mad that I shouted, "You're just some sad, selfish old man!" Then I stormed out of there. I was instructing my maid to pack my suitcases when my mom came in and handed me a bank card, saying it's a secret between us two. Yay! Thanks, Mom. Now let the dream voyage begin. Wow, it really was heaven to me, with cocktails in the pool and lazy beach days. Well, at least, that was until my friends said they wanted a day exploring. It was hot and sticky out there, but I didn't want to be left alone, so I reluctantly tagged along. We ended up in this small forest area, and I chose to sit under a parasol while my friends went to take a dip in the nearby waterfall. Because, duh, I wasn't ruining my hair for anyone. I didn't understand how this could be anyone's definition of fun. I just hoped that my friends would hurry back. Then I heard footsteps. I turned around, thinking it was the girls, but instead, there were two men with balaclavas on. Oh no, this couldn't be good. I jumped up to my feet and began to run, but my designer sandals weren't made for swift exits, and soon they caught me. I screamed out as a smelly cloth went over my mouth. After that, the world began to darken around me. I flickered my eyes open. Geez, it was so sunny. Where were my sunglasses? That's when I heard two voices, and I remembered being kidnapped. I heard the one man say,
"Got her phone?"
The other replied,
"Of course. I don't want to upset the boss."
I was so scared that I pretended to still be unconscious. Then suddenly, I heard the sound of the engine starting. I opened my eyes and saw the men driving away. Now, I was all alone in some field. What? Why would anyone kidnap someone, then just leave them in the middle of nowhere? My friends must be so worried about me. I needed to contact them. But how? I had no idea where I was, and no phone. Ugh. I should find a way out of this deserted place first, then borrow someone's phone. The kidnappers had left a bag next to me, which had a bottle of water, some snacks, and some gross-looking sneakers in it. Yuck! But I had no choice but to put them on, as my sandals were now torn. Ew! I would need so many pedicures to recover from this. I took the bag with me and started walking. After what felt like hours of torture, a farmhouse finally came into view. I whooped with joy and knocked on the door, but no one answered. I know trespassing is wrong, but this was an emergency, so I pushed the door open and ventured inside. I was just going to make a quick phone call, then I'd leave. But then I accidentally stumbled and knocked over a vase. A smashing sound broke the silence. I panicked and was about to run away, but from upstairs, a man came down and shouted,
"Stop! Thief!"
Before I could explain, he grabbed my hand and pulled me back. I tried explaining that I wasn't a thief, but he gave me a skeptical look and said,
"Well, in that case, you can leave once you've paid for my vase. That's a collectible."
What? This ugly thing? Ugh. I told him I would as soon as I made a phone call, so he doubtfully passed me his cell. I stared at it. Turns out I have never cared to remember any of my friends' numbers. I then thought about calling my parents, but no way. I was mad at Dad, and asking for his help right now only meant accepting defeat. No, never. I told the man I would pay when I got home, but he refused to let me go. After a while of arguing, he forced me to stay and work for him until I paid it off. He even made up an agreement and made me sign it. And what other choice did I have? Yep, I was completely stuck here. This was the worst day of my life. He said his name was Manson. Then he showed me where I'd be staying. This had to be a joke. It was a barn. Literally. There was an uncomfortable-looking bed in there, and I could hear horses neighing in the barn next door. Was he kidding me? I was sitting there in despair when my stomach rumbled with hunger, so I barged into the kitchen and ordered Manson to make me some food. But he just pointed at the eggs by the stove and told me to make myself something to eat. Sure, I'd definitely do that. If I knew how to cook? Manson just sat there smirking while I threw the whole egg into the pan and then spent the next half hour trying to work out how to turn the stove on. In the end, I gave up and returned to my so-called room with an empty stomach. If you think that was bad, well, things soon got a lot worse. At 5 a.m., a noisy rooster woke me up, and then started my disastrous days at the farm. I accidentally dropped the bag of seeds onto the floor and got them in my hair, so the chickens chased me around the pen to get to them. I slipped over in the pigsty. Ew! I chipped a nail cleaning out the rabbit hutch. I even fell into horse manure. It was awful. Then on top of it all, Manson was so rude. He just laughed at me struggling with everything. But then one day, it all got too much for me. I was exhausted and felt so dizzy that I stumbled and broke 2 baskets of eggs. It really hurt so bad, and I was even in tears, thinking Manson would be mad. But instead, he ran over to check on me. Then, he even cooked me a nice meal and told me that I'd been doing a great job, despite the accidents. Whoa, what's with this personality change? So, maybe he wasn't as bad as I thought? Over the next few days, I actually found myself enjoying Manson's company. We sat by the fire pit and watched the sunset. We went horse riding, and I managed not to fall off. And he even taught me how to cook. That's when I realized 2 things. Firstly, I'd been a brat. I was lazy, selfish, and I took everything for granted. But now I realized that with hard work came reward. And secondly, I realized that I liked Manson a lot. So I decided to do something nice for him. I gave the barn a makeover. It was just simple things, really. I put a rug down, added some plants, hung up a few pictures and fairy lights. Then I dragged Manson over to have a look. He peered around the barn, then smiled.
Sophia, this is so lovely.
Then he awkwardly looked down at his feet.
Look, I need to tell you something. It's your dad. He hired those men to kidnap you, then paid me to let you stay here.
I laughed over that ridiculous joke, but then he continued.
Your dad wanted you to change your outlook on life and understand the value of money. He only has your best interest at heart.
Wait, was this all just a setup? With teary eyes, I looked straight at Manson and said, I was going to tell you that I have feelings for you, but I suppose you don't feel the same. I need to go. Please tell my father to send someone to pick me up ASAP, unless he's okay with me walking all the way back home without any phone or cash. Then I hurried out of there. He shouted after me, but I ignored him. I was so angry and upset. I continued walking until a car eventually pulled up alongside me. It was our family's driver. He took me home. Then I locked myself in my room, refusing to come out. It took a few days for me to calm down enough to go confront my father. And when I did, well, I found myself running into his arms and telling him how sorry I was. He looked so shocked. I finally realized that my dad only did that because he loves me, and he wanted me to see the true values of life. I told him I would resume my studies at college, but there was something else I needed to do first. I showed up at Manson's doorstep with some carrots for the horses and a new vase. On seeing him, he grinned, then gave me the biggest hug. Guys, life isn't all about designer clothes and expensive holidays. Sometimes a stinky farm full of even stinkier animals and a cute guy, well, that can be the best place in the world. As for the future, well, Manson and I are both taking it slow and seeing where it goes. I do have big plans for his farm, though. I'm helping him renovate the barns into holiday cottages so other people can sample the country life too. A part of me will always be a pampered princess, but as for the other part of me, well, it turns out she can make a mean egg bagel and outrun a pen full of chickens. Don't take life for granted. It doesn't matter how pretty and rich you are. Instead, there's far more to life than just that. Hey, it's your girl Nicole back again. So, my mom couldn't deal with my truancy anymore, so she packed me off to live with my dad. The problem is, he's the principal of a snooty school that barely has any female students, and he forced me to attend it. The school needed to get with the times and be more female inclusive, so I started a girls-only club called The Doll to get us noticed. It was all going well, but then Dad let the news slip that I was his daughter. By first break, everyone in school knew who I was. Soon, kids who'd never spoken to me before were offering to help me with my homework. and the teachers seemed nervous around me. I get it. Nobody wanted to be seen quarreling with the principal's daughter. Even the grumpy canteen woman completely changed too. Now, she even gave me double portions of chicken. It sounded good, right? Nope. Instead, it was kinda annoying. Then on top of all this, my friends started doing crazy stuff behind my back. They put lipstick kisses on random lockers, snuck into the faculty room and set up a doll's tea party, and then they did the biggest prank of all. Yep, they actually went into the gym hall and hung up garlands of panties, bras, and tampons alongside a massive banner saying, "Welcome to the girls' world." Wow, even I thought they'd gone too far with this one. My dad was fuming about it. I was terrified they'd get expelled. There were barely any girls in the school as it was, without me losing my only female classmates. But they ended up getting a week's worth of detentions and were made to stay behind after school and clean up the gym hall. Phew! The next day, my friends came up to me while I was at my locker, and Angela said, "Detention sucks, but that prank was so worth it. Just wait till you see what we've got planned next." She winked. "It's definitely going to be a washout." Carly chuckled. Enough was enough, so I told them to inform the rest of the doll to meet me in the gym after school. Okay, so I may have sneakily taken the gym's key out of my dad's pocket, but it was for the greater good. Now I had all of the doll together. I said what I needed to say. "Hey girls, look, I know this school favors boys, and it's understandable you want to be seen, but all these pranks are making us look bad. I know my dad, and the only way he's going to listen to us is if we do something that gets across our point in an honorable way. So I'm going to run in the next student council election." Before I'd even finished my sentence, Carly said, "But that position is only for the boys." So I replied, "I think it's time we change that. Don't you? So, who's with me?" To my surprise, all of the girls in the room raised their hands and cheered. After that, I launched my campaign. The 2 candidates with the highest number of votes would go through to the final round. At first, I didn't get much attention, but then this wasn't surprising, as I was the only girl competing. The other competitors took it super seriously. One boy handed out free t-shirts with his name on them, and another stuck leaflets on everyone's locker listing 10 reasons why he was the right person for the job. No way. I needed to come up with a plan. So I came up with a familiar but extremely effective strategy called Beauty Trap. Ha! No boy could escape it. One of my main focuses was that I wanted to put the buzz back in this school and make it inclusive for all. So I took that one step further, and me and my team dressed up as cute bees and handed out homemade black and yellow cupcakes. Then, whenever a boy spoke to us, we winked at them, handed them candy, and told them it was just for them because they were the cutest. And it worked. Of course! I made the final 2, and it came down to me against Brandon, this super smart guy. So now all I needed to do was work on my presentation, which I'd give in the schoolyard. How boring it was! So a bright idea crossed my mind. Why didn't we combine the finals with a prom night, where students could not only vote for the potential president, but also dress up and socialize? I told my team about my amazing idea, but to my surprise, they looked doubtful. "The teachers will never let that happen. They are so anti-parties, it hurts," Carly said. "You just leave this to me." I smirked. My dad may have been strict, but he was no match for me. So that night, after dinner, I told him my plan. At first, he was so surprised and didn't agree, as he said that we couldn't combine the election ceremony with a singing and dancing party, as it would take the dignity out of it. Ugh! My dad was stuck in the past. So I said, "But Dad, it'll be a good opportunity for all the students to hang out with each other. Me and my friends will decorate the hall, find a DJ, sort out the food and drink, and do everything else. I know you have your reservations, and I get that, but prom is an important event for us teenagers. We learn so much from them: how to dance, how to feel good about ourselves, how to mix with each other. Plus, we need this. And I promise I won't let anyone spike the punch. In fact, we won't even have punch." It took a lot more pleading and persuading,
But eventually, he sighed, then said, "Fine, you can have your prom, but don't let me regret it." I squealed in excitement, then rushed over and hugged him. He looked shocked, as thinking about it, this was the first time I'd hugged him in, well, years. I have to admit that it kind of felt good. I instantly messaged the group with my good news, and they replied with memes, love hearts, and dancing emojis. And the talk soon turned to what we were going to wear. See? Being friends with the daughter of the principal had many advantages, right? I'm not going to lie, organizing a prom was hard. But luckily for me, I have amazing friends who helped me all the way. Carly sorted out the decorations and found a DJ, and Angela was in charge of tickets. The night of the prom finally arrived, and wow, everyone scrubbed up well. The doll members gave a welcoming dance performance, then Brandon and I went up on stage to give our presentations. Brandon went first, and geez, he's Mr. Serious, but he is cute. He went on about improving the nutritional value of school meals, organizing more school trips for the chess, math, and sports clubs, and doing more to help the climate crisis, such as raising money, recycling, and producing solar energy to lower the school's carbon footprint. It sounded convincing, right? But it was a little bit boring. He was such a nerd, albeit a cute one, and I had to pretend to itch my nose so I could secretly yawn. I heard clapping. Oh no. That meant it was my turn, and I wasn't prepared. The prom had taken up my time and, what should I say? That's when I looked over at my dad, who was standing at the back of the room, and I saw him nod at me. So I took center stage and decided to let my heart do the talking. Hi, guys and girls. Some of you may know me as the rebel girl who stirred up trouble when I first arrived here, while others may just know me as the principal's daughter. The truth is, I'm just a normal student like the rest of you, one who had some major doubts about coming here. I could hear some people whispering in the crowd, but I kept calm and carried on. I didn't think I'd like it here, but it turns out I was wrong. I've made some amazing friends, and I've grown to really kinda like this place. However, the outdated attitude toward the female students frustrates me. Times have changed, and we belong here too. So it's only right we have our own uniform, clubs tailored for us, and please, no more bench presses. Girls are just as good as boys, if not even better. For example, we, the awesome girls in the doll, set up this party all by ourselves. Together, let's make our high school life more brilliant and inclusive for all, because this school has something special, and I want everyone to see that with a little care and attention, it can truly buzz. Wow, I'd done it. All of the students cheered and applauded. Even Brandon patted me on the shoulder and said, "Well done. Your presentation was so convincing. You've got my vote." Then he winked at me. OMG. What did that mean? After that, I joined my friends on the dance floor and made the most of the amazing dance we'd organized. Finally, it was the results time. One of the teachers went on stage with the envelope containing the winner's name. Then she opened it and said, "With 2/3 of the votes, you've chosen your winner, and it's Nicole." I couldn't believe it! I'd done it! I'd actually won! When I walked off the stage, Dad came over and hugged me tight. Then he said, "Darling, I'm really proud of you." And that was it. Now I'm the president of the student council, and as I promised in my presentation, I'm making this school an inclusive place for all. Now we have more activities for girls, including a cheerleading club. Although, of course, boys can join too. We even have a girls' uniform, so I don't have to wear those hideous baggy pants anymore. Now, everyone seems happier here, including me. Mom heard about my change in attitude and invited me to come back home. But I can't go back. I belong here in this school with my new friends. Maybe, just maybe, I do love this place after all. Who'd have thought it? It's crazy, huh?
I am who I am, but you're just too selfish to accept it. And also, you love the person you created in your fantasy, not me. So, I think we should end it here. It's for the best.
So, that's me there. Yep, the blubbering girl. And the boy? That's Edward, the love of my life. I knew this would happen, as it said as much in both mine and Edward's horoscopes. It'd been written in the stars. How unfair was that? It all began on a normal, sunny day. I started it as I always did, by reading my horoscope. My eyes widened when I saw what it said. Today, your paths will cross with your soulmate. Oh, my days, this was it. I was finally going to meet my Prince Charming. I was so excited that I had to skip to my step as I made my way to school. Oh, by the way, I'm a Taurus sun and Pisces moon. I understand that not everyone's as clued up on these things as I am, but basically, this means I'm a shy girl who's timid around strangers, but I have great empathy towards others. However, my main trait is that I daydream to escape from reality. The one problem with being a daydreamer is that other people were constantly telling me I should be louder, brasher, sassier. Ugh, no thanks. That isn't who I am. Seriously. They should borrow all you need to know about your star sign book and look it up, or go and find a Leo. I trust my horoscopes so much that I live my life by them. In fact, horoscopes have saved me on more than one occasion. For instance, there was this one day I refused to go to class at all cost because my daily horoscope said, you may get caught up in an accident at work or school, so proceed with caution. And you wouldn't believe what happened in science class. One of my classmates spilled acid all over the place. Luckily, no one was hurt, but still, thank God I wasn't there. Horoscopes are super important to me, but so is my love of Korean dramas, especially the romantic ones. Swoon. I always imagine all kinds of cute situations in which I find the love of my life who is as handsome, as funny, and caring as the male leads in the drama series. And that's why no guy I've seen ever met my expectations. But my horoscope said it's going to happen, so I was adamant that it would. I wondered what he'd look like and what star sign he'd be. Surely he had to be a Cancer, right? We would accidentally bump into each other, fall in love, overcome all difficulties together, and live happily ever after. This was so exciting. I was daydreaming by my locker when I overheard some girls whispering about a new boy named Edward. Curious, I squeezed myself through the crowd and oh my God. This guy had a face like a Greek Adonis. Could he be my prince? There was only one way to know for sure. I needed to find out his star sign. But like I said, I'm a shy girl. So I was hardly going to go up to him and ask him for his date of birth, as he'd think I was a weirdo. I continued to daydream about my dilemma, and then bingo! I came up with an amazing, foolproof idea. See, being a Pisces has its serious perks. As he was new, his file would be at reception for Mrs. Shillington to sort out. I waited until the start of lunch break as I knew it would be quieter around there then. Then I sneaked over to her desk and scanned through Edward's file. What? He's an Aries, the total opposite of me. How could he be the one? As I walked away, I couldn't stop thinking. His rising moon sign must be Pisces or Cancer, or maybe something that matched mine. It was impossible to know for sure without knowing the exact time he was born. They should really make adding it to documents a legal requirement, as it's important. I was so lost in my thoughts that I bumped straight into someone. I looked up and mumbled out a sorry. Oh my days, it was Edward. This was it. Our paths had crossed. Soon he'd invite me for a walk across the beach. Then we'd kiss under the moonlight.
Hey, are you okay?
He stared at me, but I was too busy fantasizing to focus. I think I may have been drooling a bit. So he put his hands on my shoulders and started shaking me.
Hey, you're okay, right?
I finally snapped out of it, blushed, and muttered out, "Yep, I'm fine. I know I'm a pretty girl. Hey, us Pisces have a natural born charisma. Plus, I was having this blushing look on. How can any boy resist this cutie?" So I wasn't all that surprised when Edward said,
Good. You had me worried there for a minute. I'm new here and don't really know anyone.
He itched at his neck.
So, do you want to go grab a coffee after school? Besides, it'll be my way of apologizing for not looking where I was going.
I gave my sweetest smile and said, sure. We arranged to meet at this nearby coffee house. I know I told you I'm a quiet person, but surprisingly, Edward and I just clicked. We shared a muffin and he told me meeting me had been the best part of his day. He even asked for my number before I went home. Yay! Oh, I also found out what time he was born. I rushed home so I could look up his star sign, and as I expected, his moon and rising sun is Cancer, a total match with me. From that day on, we started texting and calling loads and even saw each other every day. It was great, until one day. He asked me if I wanted to be his girlfriend. Oh my god, of course I wanted to. Everything was going exactly as I imagined it. But that's when it also started to get messy. Okay, so my horoscope obsession means I talk about stars, planets, the moon, the sun, and the personalities of each zodiac a lot. I know this drives him bonkers, as he's such a skeptic. One day in his horoscope, it was written that he should take it easy today and avoid strenuous exercise. But Edward had an important basketball match at school. I begged him not to participate, but he wouldn't listen. He said it was absurd. The team needed him and he couldn't let them down on a whim. I was frantic with worry that he was going to break his leg or something. I couldn't let this happen, so I put some laxative syrup in his water bottle. A few spoonsful would be enough, right? But I think I may have poured a little too much as he disappeared into the restroom for hours. Oops. The team lost, but at least my boyfriend didn't have any broken bones, right? That's not all. It was vital to me that he made all sorts of romantic gestures, just like they did in the Korean dramas that I love. So I made him stand outside my house in the middle of the night, then call me to tell me to go by the window so he could see me because he missed me so much that he needed to see my face. This was so romantic, especially when it rained. Nothing's hotter than your boyfriend standing under the rain in front of your house. Although I thought it was totally normal, Edward didn't think so. He thought I was insane, and he ended up with a cold afterward. Then one morning, I checked our horoscopes and I stared at my phone screen in shock. We were gonna break up, and that's when I got a message from him.
We need to talk. Meet you after school.
Oh Jesus, this wasn't a good sign. Did he really want to end things between us? All day long, I played out different scenarios of us breaking up in my head. Talk about torture. By the time school ended, I just wanted to get this over with, then go home and cry into my pillow. Edward was super quiet. He couldn't even meet my eyes, and the look on his face was so serious. I thought to myself, oh no, this is really happening? Our breakup was inevitable, but that didn't mean he got to do it. Yeah, that's right. So as soon as he began to talk, I butted in and said, I'm sorry, Edward, but we need to break up. Edward looked confused. At first, he thought I was playing out one of the romantic scenes again. But then when he realized I wasn't, he asked why, and I replied, because our horoscope said so. Angrily, he replied,
Alice, I was going to introduce you to my parents tonight because I love you.
What? He wanted me to meet his parents and take our relationship to the next level? Stammering, I quickly tried to correct myself, but he didn't listen.
You trust some garbage from the internet more than your own boyfriend. I am who I am, but you're just too selfish to accept it. And also, you love the person you created in your fantasy, not me. So, I think we should end it here. It's for the best.
Then he left me standing there alone in floods of tears. I couldn't stop thinking about Edward and how devastated he looked. Did I misread the horoscopes? Or maybe they were wrong? I love him and he loved me too. We were meant to be, right? Suddenly, I knew exactly what I needed to do. So the next evening, I went around to Edward's house. He answered the door and gave me a confused look.
Alice, what are you doing here?
I messed up and I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
He snorted. Is that so? What about if your horoscope tells you different tomorrow? Then what?
It doesn't matter. I shook my head. I'm willing to make some changes. Why do you think I'm here? I'm ready to take the next step in our relationship and meet your family. I held a box of chocolates up. Does your mom like chocolates? At first, he was silent, but then he smiled and pulled me in for a hug.
Yes, Alice. My mom loves chocolates, but I love you more.
Phew. So, I got my boyfriend back and also met his family, who turns out are super nice. I try not to mention horoscopes too much, but I may have asked his sweet mom if she's a Libran. Yep, she is. I knew it. As for now, I'm still reading my horoscopes, but I'm not taking them quite as literal anymore. I've learned that the stars tell the possibility, not the truth. At the end of the day, everything that happens to me is based on my own decisions and actions, nothing else. Hey, horoscopes led me to find Edward, but they also almost caused me to lose him forever. And there's no way I'm making that mistake ever again.
Hey, Alex. I felt someone tap on my shoulder. I turned around to see who it was and, it was Roxy, my crush, who also happened to be the most beautiful girl in the world. I figured I must have been in her way, so I quickly mumbled out, "Sorry," and stepped aside. But out of my surprise, she smiled at me and said, "So, a little birdie told me you like me? You know, I think it's cute you haven't made a move on me yet, not like most of the guys around here." I stared at her open-mouthed. Was I dreaming? I pinched myself to check. Nope, this was real. So I nodded my head and muttered out, yeah? My friend's having a party at their frat house on Wednesday. You want to come? Before I could reply, her friend Luke appeared, and grinning, he said, "Yeah, you just gotta come to this party." Roxy hit his arm while giving him a dirty look, then smiled at me. "So it's at number 19, starts at 9 p.m. I'll see you then?" I nodded in response, and she said, "Great, see you there." Then she winked at me before she walked off. So yeah, I'm Alex, your average second-year college student. And this is the story about how my crush tried to lure me into a seriously sinister trap. I guess I'm a normal guy. I'm not as rich and popular as the kids from the frat houses are. Instead, my room is in the regular dorms, and although I'm not ugly or unpopular or anything, I'm easily overlooked. So I kept my crush on Roxy a secret because she was way out of my league. She was so beautiful, this was crazy. How did she even find out that I liked her? I couldn't believe that she'd asked me out. This was mad. At first, I felt like the luckiest guy ever. But then as I watched Roxy walk back to her friends, I noticed them giggling, except for this one girl called Sophie. Meanwhile, Luke was making everyone high-five him. He was always a little odd, and he spoke to people in strange ways. Then I caught Sophie's eye, and she gave me a look that said, "Don't." Then she promptly looked away. Her jerky boyfriend Jack had his arm around her shoulder and was tugging on one of her trademark pigtails as he glugged back his drink. I had no idea what she saw in him. But what had her look been about? Back in my dorm, I discussed it with my roommate Ben, and he said it sounded like a setup. As much as I wanted it to be legit, my gut instinct was also saying that it was too good to be true. So the night of the party, I decided to take a look out my dorm window, as it's in the perfect location to get a clear view of the frat houses. I counted the houses down to number 19. Then I took out my binoculars, for which I used for field research studies, to take a closer look. The house had a large rainbow pride flag hanging from the two windows. This made me wonder why Roxy would want to go to a gay party. I saw a lot of feminine-dressed men, and the only two girls that I could spot were far from attractive. And it seemed like they were a couple. And then there was Luke in the front yard holding 2 drinks and looking around like he was waiting for someone. Where was Roxy? I decided to check her social media to see if she'd posted anything. And I noticed she'd left her location open. She was in a nightclub, Diego's. That was strange. So I gave the party a miss, and instead Ben and I went to a student bar. I told him about it, and he said it sounded like I dodged a bullet. The next day I was sitting with Ben and some of my other friends in the canteen when Roxy stormed over to me and yelled out, "How dare you stand me up? Who do you think you are?" Luke appeared and said, "Yeah, why not show?" I just shrugged and said, "Roxy, I know you weren't there. Your phone location's public. You were at Diego's." She hesitated, then said, Yeah, my friend borrowed my phone." "But what you did was so creepy, you stalker." As if. Roxy was never without her phone, so I wasn't buying her story. This whole thing didn't make any sense, so I sort of mouthed out, "Whatever, Roxy," then carried on eating my lunch. After that, she started making my life a living hell. She told everyone that I was stalking her, so random students started coming up to me and telling me to leave her alone. Then someone covered the dorm corridors in leaflets with a picture of my face and the word "stalker" written across them. I knew Roxy was behind it. It was so weird. But Luke was worse. One time after class, he sneaked up on me, grabbed my arm, and said, "Hey Alex, why you bail on my party?" I told him that I saw the party from a distance and it wasn't my thing, so he replied, "Hey, you got a probs with me being gay?" I shook my head and told him I didn't, but he still wouldn't let go of my arm. I was relieved when he finally let go of me, and I hurried back to my dorm. On the way, I spotted Sophie sitting outside on the shared bathroom. Hang on, why was she in a flood of tears? I asked her if she was okay, but she told me to go away. Although I didn't want to put my nose where it shouldn't be. But I wasn't heartless, so I left her my bottle of water before I walked off. I said, "If you want to talk about it, I'm here for you." I was unlocking my dorm room when I heard someone cough behind me. I turned around to see Sophie standing there. She thanked me for the water and she said she wanted to talk. I led her into my room and she sat on my bed. And staring at her feet, she said in tears, "I caught Jack and Roxy by the locker rooms, but when I confronted them about it, they just shooed me away." I sat down next to Sophie and hugged her. This was horrible. It looks like I've been so wrong about Roxy. She wasn't my dream girl at all. Instead, she was a nightmare. Sophie continued, "It gets worse. Roxy stole my assignment and submitted it as her own. It's due tomorrow and I don't have the time to write a new one." She started crying again. I passed her a tissue and said, "We'll sort this out. There's no way she's getting away with it. That's horrible." So I told her to send an email to the college dean and to her course tutor explaining what happened. She'd attached the original assignment and all the notes she'd written about it. They both got back to us within minutes and said that they would look into this. Sophie looked so delighted, but then suddenly her smile dropped, and she fiddled with one of her pigtails as she said, "Alex, there's something I need to tell you. Please don't hate me." Then she told me how the party Roxy had invited me to had been a trap. Roxy found out I had a crush on her, and she was embarrassed that an average guy like me dared to have feelings toward her. And she was adamant she needed to teach me a lesson. So that's when Luke said he would help, as he wanted to add me to his collection, so they hatched a plan. Roxy invited me to the party, and Luke was waiting for me with a spiked drink. Apparently, this was Roxy's way of silencing me, and making sure I didn't look at her in the same way ever again. Whoa, this was so dark. I shivered at the thought of what could have been. It was terrifying. Sophie also told me that she begged Roxy not to do this, but she got her friends to hold her down. Then she told her that if she intervened, they'd make her suffer. I comforted Sophie and told her that it wasn't her fault. I knew I couldn't just stay quiet on this, as they could do this to some poor other guy who dared to have a crush on her. So with Sophie's help, we wrote a letter to the dean and to the college security about what had happened. This wasn't going to be taken lying down. Sophie was terrified that Roxy and her friends would come after her, so I invited her back to my hometown for the weekend to get away from everyone and let things cool down. When we arrived back at college, news spread that Roxy had been expelled for stealing another student's work. As for Luke, the cops raided his frat house and found loads of banned substances hidden in there. It was so serious that it went to court, and they ended up in jail. As for Jack, he tried to guilt-trip Sophie as to why she should get Roxy expelled for dumb reasons, but she stopped talking to him anyway. I often think back to the night of the party and what could have been. My life would have been ruined, and what for? All because I dared to have a crush on a beautiful girl. I say good riddance. Some good has come out of this whole mess. Sophie and I grew closer and started dating. Now we've both graduated, and that's not all. We have 2 amazing kids together. I love my beautiful family with all my heart, and I just want to protect them from all the bad in this world. So in short, I don't think that just because you're beautiful, rich, and popular, that you get away with doing whatever you please. Regardless of age, sex, looks, and so on, everyone deserves to be treated with respect and compassion.
I kicked off my heels and threw my handbag down on the table. Geez, I'm so tired. Should I quit this job? I thought out loud. I hoped my friends were home, as I needed to vent. I was about to lie down on the couch when I suddenly saw a shadow go toward the bathroom. I took a closer look. There was a man doing something in my bathroom. Was our place getting robbed? Panicked, I grabbed one of my heels, then rushed forward and hit him with it. "Thief! Thief! Hazel! Ivy! Thief!" I shouted out as I continued to slam my heel into him. He held his head and kept saying, You misunderstood! I'm not..." Suddenly, my 2 friends rushed over, but instead of helping me tackle the intruder, they pulled me off of him. "Maya, stop!" Hazel said hastily. "He's with us." Oops. I put my heel down and gave a sheepish look. "Well, thanks for the heads up."
Then Hazel asked the guy if he was okay. He didn't say anything. Instead, he just glared at me before he walked out of the room. Suddenly, Hazel and Ivy were pulling me toward the kitchen table for a chat. So apparently, they decided to find a new tenant, and this Wesley guy was the chosen one. Geez, it would have been nice if they'd run it past me first. I mean, I did live here. I frowned at them, told them they sucked, and that I didn't want to live with some random guy. Maya, we didn't tell you because we knew you'd act like this. Hazel sighed. But with the rent increase, we have no choice but to bring someone new into the mix. Besides, you have to admit that Wesley is nice to look at, Ivy said in a dreamy voice. Whatever, I crossed my arms. And no, I don't think he's in the slightest bit good-looking. Hazel grinned as she said, No, because he now has heel imprints all over his head. I rolled my eyes, then grabbed my handbag and headed toward my room. I didn't want to live with some dumb guy. But thanks to my totally unreasonable friends, I didn't have much choice. The next day was Saturday. Thank God. So I slept until noon, then lazily went down to the kitchen to get some leftover pizza. Huh? Where was it? I knew Ivy and Hazel were too calorie-obsessed to touch it. It could only be Wesley. He was watching TV in the living room, so I went over to him and asked loudly, Did you eat my pizza? How dare you? Without looking away from his show, he said, Yeah, I threw it in the trash. He did what? Then he continued, You left it in the fridge to go bad and spoil all the other foods. Please don't do that again. Huh. Where was my apology? He'd thrown away my lunch, and now he dared to challenge me? How annoying! I was about to give him a piece of my mind when he handed me something and said, I made a list of house rules. I looked at the first 3 rules. Number 1, wash up all your dirty dishes straight after use, then thoroughly clean the basin. Number 2, write your initials on all your food and drinks and don't steal anyone else's. Number 3, shower time is 10 minutes maximum. Then clean the bathroom before leaving. What? Was this guy for real? Who in their right mind had the time or patience to write their initials on everything? I frustratingly replied to him, No way am I... Wesley interrupted me. 4 people are living here, so the majority vote goes. I smirked at him. I knew for sure that Hazel and Ivy would never accept those stupid rules. They liked the messy, grab-it-and-go lifestyle even more than me, and Ivy spent at least an hour in the shower. So we all gathered in the living room, and Wesley handed out his rules. But to my surprise, Ivy only flicked out her hair, then said, Okay, Wesley. And Hazel fluttered her eyelashes and said, Sure, these rules seem great. Geez, what was wrong with these girls? He wasn't even that handsome. Unfortunately, my love-struck friends' votes meant that I was outnumbered. I had no choice but to follow Wesley's ridiculous rules. The trash takeout rotation was so confusing. What was wrong with leaving it to overflow? I missed my slot, so Wesley stuck a Post-it note to my door saying, Take the trash out at 6 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and 7 p.m. on the other days. It's not difficult. W. Ugh. Who even used Post-it notes in this day and age? He was such a loser! Also, I have this box for my random items, hair slides, pins, keepsake tickets, scarves, and so on, which I kept in the living room. It didn't matter where I moved it. Wesley shook his head and mouthed the word no at me. Yep, you guessed it. He stuck another Post-it note to my door, this one saying, No personal clutter in the communal areas. W. In the end, I stuck the box into my closet so it was out of the way. Living with Wesley was a nightmare, especially when I finally quit my job at that lame law firm, which means I had to stay home with him pretty much all the time. This guy was just too meticulous. If any of us dared place anything in the wrong place, he glared at us and said, That isn't where it lives. Couldn't I put the TV remote on the arm of the couch if I wanted to? I pay rent too. I didn't want to live in a model home. One time, I was chilling in my room when I turned around to see Wesley standing there. He looked around my messy room, shook his head, then picked up my bra from the floor. I immediately snatched it out of his hand and hid it.
How embarrassing! Hey, why is your room so untidy? He tutted, then grunted out before leaving. Clean up right now.
How dare he come into my room and order me about? I stomped out to the living room to confront him about it. But before I could do so, I was dumbfounded at the sight of Ivy and Hazel in the middle of a cleaning frenzy. Ivy smiled over at Wesley and said, "Isn't this shiny?" Then Hazel asked him, "Do you need me to move anything?" Jeez, it was like they had a spell cast on them or something. Then Wesley looked at me and said,
"Maya, your friends have grasped the importance of keeping our living environment clean. So, why can't you?"
Fine. If Wesley wanted me to change, then I would. Just not in the way he expected me to. It was time I took being messy to a whole new level. I started by moving things around. Then I rubbed the initials out on his can of soda and wrote on my own. Then I settled down for an afternoon watching a movie on the couch, my feet up on the upholstery, of course. Yep, I also dropped popcorn all over the place. I couldn't help but giggle as I heard Wesley's disgruntled moans coming from the kitchen. Then I heard a cupboard slam and he appeared in front of me.
"Maya, that's mine."
He picked the soda can off the floor and examined the altered initials.
"And this goes on a coaster on the table. Ugh, I can't stand it anymore."
He swatted my legs down.
"I'll be your cleaner, but I'm charging you for it."
"Sure, Wesley, if that's what you want." I smiled before I threw a piece of popcorn into the air, and it missed my mouth and landed on the couch. He muttered under his breath as he picked it up and marched over to the trash can. Hey, this could be fun, especially as I had no intention of making it easy for him. I left a trail of candy wrappers around the house, dropped crumbs on the couch, and purposely didn't take my sneakers off at the door, so I got mud clumps everywhere. It was so funny watching him squirm as he cleaned up after me. Then one time, when I knew he was in an online work meeting, I barged into his room and dropped an armful of my dirty laundry on his floor, then fled. He was so mad, but couldn't move an inch since his boss was talking. Then suddenly, I got a phone call. Weird. It's from a guy at the law firm I'd worked at. Turns out, they're short-staffed and asked me to come back to work until they find someone else. But you know what? I was too sick of that job, so I politely declined the offer. But suddenly, he yelled at me with words like,
"Don't be so full of yourself. You should have been grateful for this offer, because I don't think you'd be able to survive one day in the world out there. You're irresponsible, unorganized, and lazy. Have fun being jobless."
Then he hung up, leaving me speechless. I felt so terrible. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. "I'm sorry about earlier, but I'm really not in the mood right now, Wes," I mumbled upon seeing Wesley walk into my room, probably to scold me about the pile of laundry. But instead, he sat down next to me, passed me a tissue, and told me that I may be the messiest girl ever, but I deserved better than that shitty job and shitty boss.
"Trust yourself. I know there's more to you than this. And maybe, if you find the right job that you're passionate about, who knows? You can even become the most organized and diligent girl ever."
He teased me to brighten up the atmosphere. Okay, so maybe Wesley wasn't all bad. After that, I decided to try and be a teensy bit tidier from now on, but not too tidy. Later on, he stuck a Post-it note to my door saying he wouldn't be cleaning up after me tonight, as he was going out. I asked the girls where Wesley was, and they looked disappointed, as they said he went out all dressed up and mentioned something about a date. Why did I feel a knot in my chest at the thought of Wesley on a date with some other girl? I couldn't like him, could I? Nah, how could I like someone that particular? I watched a movie to push away those strange feelings, and then went to bed. Only, I found myself unable to sleep. So at about 1 a.m., I went and got a glass of water. That's when he returned. I asked him how his date went, and he looked really awkward, muttered something out about how she was just a friend, then lingered on the spot there for me to finish, so he could wash up my glass and put it away before he went to bed. Okay, so that was weird. The weirdness continued for the next week. Wesley continued to clean up after me, but he couldn't even meet my eye, and whenever I tried talking to him, he ignored me, then hurried off. Then, one time when I was in my room, I heard footsteps by my door.
I knew it was him with one of his dumb notes again. So I pushed open the door to see him standing there, red-faced, then shouted at him, "Why are you avoiding me?" He blushed and looked at the note he'd just stuck to my door. Quickly, I read it. "I'm sorry I've been avoiding you. The truth is, you're the messiest girl I've met in my whole life, but I still can't stop thinking about you. W." What? Did he like me too? I pulled him into my room to talk about this, but he looked at the mess and shook his head. "That doesn't live there." He gestured to the coat thrown on my bed. "Give it a rest." I rolled my eyes before I pulled him closer to me and kissed him. And we've been together ever since. As much as it pains me to say, it turns out that this messy girl can't live without her cleaning-obsessed guy. But then they do say that opposites attract. Who knew that bonding over Post-it notes and spoiled pizza could lead to something more?